Now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Welcome, punters. Thanks for joining us for a very special edition of the Pick and Go podcast as we get ready to preview a huge Super Rugby Pacific final coming up in Eden Park this Saturday evening. And as you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube or any of our other audio-visual channels, to my left, we've got the full house in for the big game. The Pablo Matera of the Pick and Go podcast joining us directly to my left, Paul Moati. Welcome back, Paul. How was your week off?
It was good, thank you. Yeah.
That's good. As you can see, bringing the energy early on, setting the tone for the final. We like to see it. And across the other side of the table, Richard Laddie. How are you, Richard?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I was running a bit late today, so I've only just arrived. So I'm coming in hot off a bike ride, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
You're amped.
I got to say, I'm praying the Crusaders and the Blues are a little bit better prepared than us for this show because it's been a bit of a hectic couple of minutes, but we are ready to go. And
I'm hoping the All Blacks are better prepared than us.
Paul, we'll get to that shortly.
Right.
No need to jump ahead because I still have to introduce one last member of the podcast. Couldn't let James slip away without talking about the big game, so we've got him on the line again as well. James Marshall, how are you, mate?
Hey, good, mate. Thanks for inviting me back. Awesome to have all four of us ready to go and talk about this final, which is going to be one hell of a game.
Yeah, no, it's certainly going to be pretty awesome. And since, it's so exciting and everyone, I think, is pretty fired up to talk about, I've put it directly at the end of the run sheet, so we've actually got plenty to talk about before we get to that. But so, that's a bit of a teaser. Hang around, punters. There'll be some good stuff coming to you later. But I think, first of all,
Really? What sort of good stuff?
Well, the final preview.
That's all right.
Anything else happened this week?
You got a giveaway? No. That's good stuff.
Well, thanks for joining us, Paul.
Okay.
We'll let you
All
get
right.
on with your day.
Just saying.
Really, it's sort of like a bit of a coup feeling about this. I'm worried I'm going to turn around and be hauled off somewhere. But first, we do have to talk about, so actually big news on Monday morning as the All Blacks unveiled their first squad of 2022. 6 new ins, new caps, and six players left out of the squad from last year, I believe. I'll start with you, Paul, since you're feeling pretty chippy this morning, I can tell. What was your biggest surprise of the squad?
I'm probably looking at those who missed out in terms of surprises. I think probably Cullen Grace should mark himself as very, very unlucky. I think he's been one of the loose forwards of the competition pretty much throughout. So I think he's very, very unlucky. You could probably have a look at someone like Ethan de Groot as well, especially seeing as Tui Nukuafi got selected ahead of him, and yet he's heading off to brighter things in France, I think it is. But I think maybe Ethan de Groot and to a lesser extent Shannon Frizzell maybe have suffered because of the performance of the Highlanders. So, and of course injuries as well. And Luke Jacobson, you can throw him in there as well. Yeah, in terms of surprise, it's more of those who missed out as opposed to those who got in. So, yeah, I thought Cullen Grace, very unlucky.
Fair enough. Was anything that jumped out to you, Richard, when the team was named?
Yeah, I'm sort of with Paul there. I think everyone who got selected, their name had probably been thrown out there on this podcast or, various other podcasts or media out there. I was probably surprised they went with Sowakula. There was a couple of other people in the, not that he's played badly, he's been brilliant this season and Pataranaki last year, but there's probably a few of those other loose forwards like Jacobson and Grace who, play to a different sort of mold, but it probably might signal sort of the way that the All Blacks want to go, someone a bit more dynamic, something a bit different. So looking forward to seeing them have a go. Great to see Fakatava get in there. I thought Weber maybe a bit unlucky. I wouldn't have been surprised if they went with 4 halfbacks, but I see both TJ and Weber in the Māori All Blacks, so they'll both get a chance at Ireland as well. So, yeah, but it's a good team. I'm looking forward to seeing some of these new guys get a chance.
Sure. What was your big talking points, James?
Probably the biggest surprise for me was, you already mentioned it, but Carl Tunufiaki. Just because he's off to France, I thought he would be not even really in that picture. Thought Ethan de Groot, when he played against the Blues, was massive. He dominated that game, was massive at scrum time. So I was surprised to see him miss out to him. So That was probably the biggest surprise. But like you guys have mentioned, so many guys were unlucky. The halfbacks was always going to be a tough decision. 2 world-class halfbacks have missed out. Loose forwards, there was a lot of guys going for that one spot once Ethan Blackadder was injured, I think. So they've obviously gone for big Peter Gus there, and he's had a massive season. So looking forward to seeing what he can do in that All Black jersey. But like you've mentioned, there's probably 3 or 4 really unlucky guys who could have easily picked up that spot as well.
Yeah, certainly. I think that Blackadder injury obviously opened up, I think, quite a selection conundrum for the selectors, because there was probably, they'd had him penciled in there and then there was no sort of clear replacement. It could have gone to 4 or 5 guys. The De Groot one, I mean, we've all touched on it. That was the surprise for me, because it does sound like the coaches have given him a couple of work-ons to go in away and they want to see him improve before he comes back into the All Blacks. But you'd think, you know, with the World Cup just 18 months away or less, that you'd rather have him in camp so you can maybe get your hands on him and mold him yourselves there. So that's something. And I do wonder with the halfbacks, if just knowing that Brad and TJ both are eligible for the Maori All Blacks and they can still be in a All Black camp of sorts, that maybe played into some of the thinking there. Finlay Christie and Folau Fakatava obviously both had great seasons as well, but sort of keeps everyone in some sort of national selection mold and gives them another chance to make their play. I see you maybe nodding along a little bit there, James. Are you thinking?
I 100% agree with that, especially Fakatava. Lock him in to New Zealand rugby. These other 2, give them a chance. I was surprised they didn't do that with Mark Talaire as well, to be fair. I thought opportunity to get him locked into the New Zealand rugby system for the next, 3 or 5 years now. So, but he's got an opportunity to play for either South Africa or Samoa. So it'll be interesting to see what he does over the next couple of years leading into this World Cup. But you also mentioned Ethan De Groot and his couple of work-ons. Biggest one for me was, one of his work-ons was mobility, and then they go and pick Carl Tuanofiaki, who's hardly the most mobile prop, obviously a very good scrummager. But yeah, just really interesting to hear that sort of feedback.
If Blackadder isn't injured, is it Peter Gus that misses out?
I think so,
Has to
right?
be, I think.
Although he does, I like the Sokola selection, and it's certainly not what I was expecting at all. He obviously started with a hiss and a roar, but then maybe tailed off a little bit.
Cooled off, he did.
Yeah, but he brings a very unique skill set. Like, he's got that sort of rampaging running style that can knock an Irish defensive line backwards, and maybe I think that's what they saw we needed at the end of year 2 last year. We were struggling to get that go forward ball against these huge physical packs of like Ireland, France, South Africa, who are sort of those other world-class sides at the moment. So yeah, maybe it wasn't, but maybe they just needed a point of difference there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like for like, is it? You know, they're very different players. But when you look at the rest of those guys in the loose forwards, they may have potentially dropped one of the locks, maybe drop the likes of Lord, maybe, and have Sokola and Blackadder both in there with by sort of, I don't know, but.
How good's a bit of speculation, but we sort of touched on it there. I guess one thing I did want to ask you, James, do you think these selections, is there any clues we can read into with maybe like the Sokola selection or anything else about how the All Blacks want to play this season? Any style changes we maybe look forward to?
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to know or tell from going off the squad, but because this squad is only selected for this Irish, these 3 tests against Irish, and then it's going to could be completely changed for the what is it now, the Rugby Championship. So obviously Ireland, it's going to be cold, wet, dewy nights, middle of winter, against an Irish team who love to play, love to keep the ball. So yeah, it is hard to say. The starting 15 is going to be the real interesting one. What's that starting 15 going to look like? Is Peter Gus, he's in the squad, but is he actually going to be starting number 8? I don't think so. So it's hard to know how their style is going to match up, just going from quite a big squad.
Yeah, that loose forward trio in particular is just one hell of a Rubik's Cube. I think you can have any sort of number of combinations there before you. But sort of along the same lines, Paul, do you think maybe the squad selection does show the coaches are feeling a little bit of pressure? They know they need a big series against Ireland. They can't sort of use this as a trialing ground for next year in France.
I think they're sort of having a sort of 50-50 sort of. There is going to be a certain amount of sort of trialing without actually going too far outside the square. So yeah, they've picked a very, very strong squad, and I'm sure that first test they're going to put their number 1 15 on the field to kick things off. They don't want to get 1-0 down in the series and have to start playing catch up. Although I had a look at the odds just a little while ago, I think the Irish were still just under the $5 mark to win the series.
All Blacks 3-0 still trading odds on, which
it's a wee bit. I don't know if it's because of the sort of action that we've already taken on that, but it does seem a wee bit sort of optimistic for mine. I can see the Irish winning at least one of those tests, especially if the weather plays its part and they get a cold, wet, rainy night somewhere in New Zealand.
Although, like it's 2-0 going into the third test in Wellington, and maybe the All Blacks do give
then
a
they
few of these
do
new guys
be a wee bit more sort of experimental. But I don't mind the look at, and I think back to the Lions tour as well, and the drawn series at $41 sort of tweaks my interest as well.
No.
Don't go there.
All right. And on that note, right, that's enough speculation for one podcast. I'm sure we'll get into a bit more later on, but let's talk about some stuff that actually has happened on the footy field and we can analyse. Obviously, a couple of pretty interesting semi-finals we had. One obviously went right down to the wire. The other was very competitive, even if the scoreline wasn't quite so close. We'll start in Christchurch on Friday night. And sort of the first thing I've got written down here, and I think it was the clear lead story of the game, right, James? 222 tackles.
Huge effort from that Crusaders side. It got to, once Pablo went off and they were into that strong wind, I thought this has got to be the Chiefs winning this. Like, how the Crusaders going to be able to survive here? But man, they showed some ticker. Their defense was incredible. Real zero ruck focus, so no one at that breakdown, just really backing their D. No one missing tackles, and they certainly delivered. A very different contrast to the Blues, who go really hard at the breakdown. Crusaders were just getting straight out of there, but backing their D and backing the fact that they could make 222 tackles, which not many teams would be able to do. So it was a huge effort from them.
Yeah, no, that was, I think just one of those Crusaders performances, right, where maybe not everything was on their side, but they just managed to find a way, and in the end it wasn't really even that close. But
A few things on their side.
Do you want to continue with that point, Paul?
No, just saying.
Okay, yeah, no. It was just shout out to the match official in the All Whites Costa Rica game who showed us refereeing could be worse elsewhere. So just get that off my chest.
I think he's just picked up a job in the NRL bunker.
Geez, we're all over the place. Back to Christchurch, like I said, the scoreline wasn't super close in the end, but it certainly could have been. I think there was obviously, if you're a Chiefs fan or a Chiefs player, there's several moments you're looking back on throughout the course of the game. What do you think was the biggest turning point? Where, if there was one thing that they could have changed, what?
I think take the points. Take the points when they're on offer. I think you've got to read. First of all, you've got to read how the referee is officiating the game, and if he's been, what's the word? Lenient, I guess, in some cases. Then, if you're waiting for him to pick a yellow card out of his pocket, and it's not coming, but the penalties are, I think you've got to, and you're in fairly handy position. I think you've got to take the points and then work your way back down the field, put pressure on, and then take the points again. I guess Peter Gus over the line.
Quinta Paya as well. I still think if he just puts his head down and slides there, it was so weird and slippery, he probably gets there, right?
Yeah. And I think if Peter Gus just rolls the other way, instead of did he try and like put it over his head?
I think he was looking for the offload. He didn't realise
he was there.
The same thing, right?
Yeah. So there are a couple of key moments there where the Chiefs could have scored points, put pressure on, and it just didn't happen. But
and the Nankerville yes,
as
well, which is what Moanga got, right? He ran up,
chip
and chaser Reese, and then
that was the thing, right? The Chiefs had all this ball, and then it was just the little things. But the Crusaders, they only needed that one opportunity, whether it was Richie Moanga or Will Jordan or Severy. They made it count in those conditions. Like that's just the sort of, it's an unquantifiable thing about this Crusaders team and those guns they've got. They just
It's pretty much a 14-point try, that one, where the Chiefs were hot on attack, just pressure, and then Severis gets a loose ball, kicks it down the field. Next thing you know, they're over the Crusaders are scoring a try. So, but yeah, the Crusaders' defense was just absolutely sensational.
Yeah, no, that was certainly the talking point of the game. Are you on the same page, Richard, around kicking the 3 points? You think maybe they should have?
Yeah, I mean, well, they probably had about 3 or 4 chances where they could have just made it a little bit closer. And they had an aggressive game plan, and that was obviously what had come from the top, was saying, let's go for it. But the way that the weather was, like I heard some of the Crusaders saying it was, some of the worst conditions they'd ever played in, like it looked horrible, wet,
I was
windy.
just waiting for the fog to roll in.
Yeah. Was that game? So yeah, they probably should have in hindsight, but yeah, kudos to the Chiefs. They tried, but they just couldn't quite sort of get there. And as we said, Crusaders are just too classy, and they with the likes of Mo'unga and Jordan, you just can't give them anything, And the Chiefs are probably the only worst enemies with those sort of attempts they had. But once again, the Crusaders showed on defence how good they can be and how desperate they were to win that game.
If that was the Canes giving away that amount of penalties in that short space of time inside their own 22, they would have had 2 or 3 in the bin.
Bringing the heat.
Just saying.
No referee is safe for Paul Moati. But you sort of touched on it before, James. The Crusaders, they were going for that full zero ruck strategy, happy to just let the Chiefs have the ball, and they knew they could sort of shut them down. Maybe looking ahead to this Saturday night, it seems like a pretty dangerous game to play when it's Beauden Barrett and Rieko Ioane and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and everyone else. Do you think Razor will be having a little bit of a tweak of game plans for this one, not wanting to give the Blues quite so much of the pill in dangerous areas?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure if that was part of the game plan. I don't think they would have been wanting to give the Chiefs that much possession. It was just the way the Chiefs played, and you sort of touched on it that the Chiefs should have taken the points. I was the opposite. I thought they were doing really well, especially in that first half. That was terrible conditions. That wind was super strong. You could see how strong it was. I thought they played that first half really well to be only down by, I can't remember what they were down by exactly, but it wasn't a huge score at half time.
There was 20-7 because there was no points scored.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it looked like a stronger win than 13 points. And when they went down to 14 men, I thought huge opportunity to kick the corner and score some points. I was surprised Gatlin wasn't looking for too much territory off some of those penalties. Instead of putting them on the 5 metre, which would have been a real try scoring opportunity, sort of hitting them on the 22, which makes it so much harder for a scoring opportunity. So I think that was probably the biggest thing off those penalties I was disappointed by. And I would have loved them to see them take 1. So I got my 12 and under punt in, but I see why they weren't going for it. They were down by 13, 2 converted tries. They win that game. So yeah, I wasn't too surprised by that, to be fair.
No, fair enough. I think, that pretty much sums it all up right up with Crusaders' defensive performance, missed opportunities for the Chiefs. Anything else you guys want to mention from that game? Any performances that stood out or anything?
I thought Cullen Grace had a huge game. I really enjoyed his play, not just with the ball, but defensively as well. He was super, I thought, and that's why I think he's very, very unlucky to.
His effort to reach out and grab that try as well, I sort of alluded to it on Twitter, like that wasn't just right there, he actually had to make quite a nice play, reach out and just get it on the line.
That was Michael Jordan on Space Jam-esque.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. So just, that goes to show those little moments that only takes 1 or 2 things to swing a game. And speaking of little moments that can swing a game, Eden Park, 20-19. Boy, that I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't expecting it to be a last-minute heartbreaker at halftime when the Blues went in up 13 points. Were you guys feeling pretty good about the Blues' chances at that stage?
Yeah, and I was on the plus, and I was feeling very nervous about that. I think it was 12.5. Just the way the Blues were playing, they were just, every time they got the ball, Bodie was just looking like he was going to score a try every time he touched the ball. He just looks in such good form at the moment. So the Crusaders will be very aware of that this week. But yeah, I mean, there was a couple of moments which I'm sure we'll talk about in that second half, but they'll be a little bit worried about their discipline in that second half. Those 2 cards. Yeah. One of them the second one probably could have been a red, but I think I heard someone saying there'd been mitigating factors. There'd been someone who'd been sent off earlier in the year, but then it got downgraded for something similar. So I don't know, but
not to harp on, but Quinta Pire's one on Friday night was a yellow. That choke one was 3 reds in comparison. So
we've seen this before from the Blues this season. The game against the Canes, where they had like a 15 or 16 point
3 tries, right?
3 tries with about 10 or 11 minutes to go. And all they had to do was play sort of percentage rugby, and they come away with the victory there. And next thing we see Artie Severe dotting down with time up on the clock, winning the game. So
any chance to bring that moment up, eh?
Strongest man in Super Rugby.
No, as much as I am enjoying talking about the Hurricanes' successes during the season, we should probably keep an eye on the Blues. Where did you sort of come down on that second half, James? Was it good that the Blues in those big moments they did manage to get up and they had that big goal line stand again in the second half, and obviously Offa running out and blocking the drop goal late on? Or is it more concerning? Maybe we're seeing a few lapses and they can't quite string that 80 minutes together.
I was a little bit concerned from that game. I thought even though they did get across the line, I think they were still very lucky. There was a couple of decisions there that probably could have gone either way and could have been a different result, to be fair. And I think Lolesea thought he had advantage, so that's the only reason he went for that pretty loose drop kick option from there. So turned out to be a huge play from Offa, and he's getting a lot of the glory. But I think Leon McDonald will be concerned with a few things before that led up to that. But yeah, they got across the line. I thought, like you guys have mentioned, they looked unbeatable in that first half. Everything was going really well. Once they've got that momentum and they're playing in behind teams, geez, they're hard to stop. But as I sort of expected, this Brumbies team weren't going to give in and got to their strengths, their rolling maul, their kicking game, and they put a heap of pressure on them. And like I said, could have potentially won that one.
Yeah, you got to be, I don't know, obviously Dan McKellar wasn't thrilled in his post-game press conference, and it'd be a pretty tough pill to take. But for the Brumbies to go to Eden Park and show up like that as a whole, that's, it was a pretty impressive performance from them, right?
They are a tough team. That's the sort of rugby they like. In the first half, the Blues were allowed to play the rugby that they like. And in the second half, for some reason, they went away from their game plan. And I think it partly had to do with the pressure that the Brumbies put on the Blues and then they started to impose their style of rugby on the game. And yeah, I was surprised that Lolesea took that drop kick, but if he thought he had
about 40 meters out,
if he thought he had an advantage, I can understand why. But
they had 40 seconds left in the clock.
Oh, and their forwards had control of the ball. They were
rolling upfield.
They were, and they were either going to get in a better position or they were going to get the Blues to concede a penalty. So, yeah, when I first saw it, I thought, well, why was he doing that? Why did he do that? He didn't have to. To be fair, Offa was closer to their backline than he was to the Blues backline.
I thought he was all right, actually, because I went back and watched the Through Zapruder style, because I think, wasn't someone saying to Ben O'Keefe at the end there, like, you need to check the offsides? Like, I was sure every drop goal is about 4 guys 10 meters offside sort of thing, but it did seem like they might have been all right for once.
No, I was the same. I had a look again, and I was like, oh, I'm surprised. Because he was charged up, and then after he'd done it, he was running about half the speed he was, going for the charge down. He's like, I've done my job now.
It's definitely the fastest he's ever moved on a rugby pitch, I think, right? Yeah. But we sort of, you mentioned there, the Brumbies were able to do some things that they enjoy doing, and one of them certainly the rolling maul. Those 2 tries later on, both coming off rolling mauls. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get it going before they subbed off Laufainia for my best bet. But congratulations to everyone who backed Lachie Lonergan for a double. The Crusaders have got to see that, right? And that's going straight into Razor's notebook for Saturday night.
That'll be one of the big plays that they'll be using this Saturday night.
Sure. Anything else we want to talk about from Eden Park, or should we dive into the final?
Shout to Tom Robinson's line-out skill as well. A very brave move from the Blues.
Oh, another unlucky guy.
Yeah, he was lucky. I don't know. Yeah, isn't really a spot for him, but his form's been great as well, and he was huge in that game. He's really good. Sort of like when Bodie and Perifera sort of making those breaks, he's always there for the offload as well. So
yes, he's almost first one to the break.
One to look out for the future for sure.
Do you have something you want to add there, James?
Yeah. Tom Robinson was impressive, but there was one brain explosion from the Brumbies when they were real close to the line, pick and going. They had huge numbers either side, and the lock just picks it up and pretty much puts it on top of all 3 players, gets held up. And the consequence for that now is just massive, going to a goal line dropout instead of your 5-meter scrum. So that was just a brain explosion from, I think it was one of their locks, could be wrong, but I remember seeing that at the time and thought that was a huge turning point, because they should have been scoring 7 points there. And then once they get that goal line dropout, they're back on their halfway trying to restart. So huge play that in the game, I thought.
I don't know about you guys, but I hate that goal line dropout rule where it's
me too.
Yeah, it's just, it makes no sense. Like I get, we're trying to turn the sport into rugby league and everything, but you need to be encouraging guys to have a go from there.
It's a terrible rule. Yeah, and there's been a few times this season that's really like like that, for example, and then number of other times where teams have really paid for it. So,
and it's the same with 50-22s. I'm pretty sure half the guys who've got 50-22s this season have forgot the rule exists, and then they go to line up for a defensive line, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sweet, no, it's our ball." So, but before I get really going downhill with that rant, we'll move on because we've got a massive game of rugby to preview back at Eden Park this Saturday, 7:05. Crusaders Blues. It's the final I think everyone wanted to see for content purposes at least. It's gonna make our jobs as social media people very easy for the next 72 hours, Richard. So can't complain about that. Straight after the game, odds opened up Saturday night. The Blues were $1.80 favourites. Crusaders $2.05. I think to no one's surprised that price didn't last long. Now it's $1.92. Crusaders $1.80 in the head-to-head market. Were you surprised to see the Crusaders open as such big underdogs, Paul?
Yes, yes. And I congratulate half of the South Island for pointing out to the bookies that price was wrong by sending all their money in. So I think we've found exactly where it should be now, because we've taken a wee bit of cash the Blues way at $1.80. But I don't think there was enough respect shown to the Crusaders at $2.05. I know the Blues have got hometown support, but come on. We've been here before, guys. We've seen this. I already know what's going to happen.
We've got the guy who knows what's going to happen on the podcast, so I'll just let you sort of...
Well, no, the Crusaders win these games. I guess the grand final experience that the Crusaders have up against the grand final experience that the Blues have.
The Blues won that Super Rugby Trans-Tasman final last year.
Yeah, not a real comp, was it?
Thanks for the social snip for this week, Paul.
Not a real one. No, this is the real one. This is the real one. And the Crusaders are back where they usually are at this time of the year. I can't see it going any other way.
Do you think the Crusaders should be favourites as well, Richard?
I think they'll win, but no, I don't think they should be favourites. On as far as
is that because you want a better price?
The season missed down the till as 5, unfortunately, but I'll still take the $1.92. No, I mean the way the season's gone, the Blues won 15 straight now. They obviously have looked a little bit shaky the last couple of weeks, but playing at home in front of a packed Eden Park, I mean that's got to count for something as well. They'll be loud, and they haven't been there for a while. Obviously, the Crusaders do have that grand final experience, and they have a couple of the players in the team have probably been on sort of losing teams as well in grand finals. I don't know. They even? Well, how many have they won in a row? 3 or 4?
Yeah.
So
2 Super Rugby Aotearoas. There was no grand final the first year, but then 3 Super Rugbies before that did one as well. So
it's a team that does win, but yeah, I mean, no surprise to see Crusaders get a little bit shorter. I'm sure the South Island will be lapping that up. Crusaders have won 6 straight at Eden Park though, which I thought was quite surprised, but I suppose when you think about some of those Blues teams in the last few years. And they've won 14 of the last 15 versus the Blues. So I didn't realise they've won 14 straight before that last one. So obviously a matchup they've dominated in recent history. So yeah, I think I'll be siding with the Crusaders. But as far as I wasn't surprised to see them favourites, Blues favourites.
How about you, James? Were you expecting the Crusaders to open up a little bit shorter?
No, I thought it was pretty much spot on. I think the Blues deserve to be favourites. I do think they'll win. I think home advantage plays a massive part, especially when you get to finals footy. You mentioned 14 out of the last 15, but the Blues are a completely different team to what they have been the last 10 years or whatever it was. It's only been the last 2 years where they've really turned up to be one of the best teams in the competition. And this year, I think they have been the best team in the competition when you look across the whole season. A packed out Eden Park. There's going to be so much support behind these boys. There's going to be a lot of energy in the crowd. The Crusaders, obviously, their record at home was incredible. What like 27 in a row finals games at home. That's some stat, but they haven't played outside of Christchurch in a finals game for a long time. Can't quite remember the last time, but Alice Park might have been that Lions game. Yeah. But they did manage to win that, to be fair, but only just. But I'm super excited about this game. It's going to be massive. 2 pretty contrasting teams, both teams stacked on paper. And it's going to be an awesome occasion. The energy from the crowd's going to be pretty special. So it's a perfect finale for what's been an awesome competition.
Like I've already said it, but Sanzar and the organisers and everyone must be absolutely stoked that they get this final to really ramp up the hype.
For and a packed Eden Park as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen every day.
No,
I think we called it at the beginning of the season.
No, we see Crusaders Chiefs.
yeah, we're all
we?
team Chiefs. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're all
We're all
off the
team
Blues.
Crusaders.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll see if we can brag about that
Yeah,
next
and I've
week.
still got my Crusaders ticket at 275 or whatever, but yeah, not feeling it is though. I'm glad to hear at least one of us, James, saying that they're backing the Blues here, because I was a bit worried it was all going to be sort of a bit of confirmation bias. Since you're carrying the Blues flag this week, it seems like, where do you think, what are the key areas the Blues need to take advantage of, and where can they get the wood on the Crusaders to win this one?
I think it's their breakdown work. Their breakdowns works the best in the comp, and it's going to make it really hard for the Crusaders to be able to play. They're very aggressive. Every ruck is contestable. They all fly in there. Their outside backs are very good at it. They got Mark Taller and these guys who are just flying into those breakdowns, getting all sorts of counter ruck turnovers. It's going to make it really difficult, which is probably going to be at least dewy night. The ball will be slippery. And then it's going to come down to the battle that we're all looking forward to, Bodie versus Richie. This is a huge matchup. Both have been playing exceptional footy. I think they're probably both two best players in the world at the moment. They're both playing so well. They were both massive for their sides in the weekend. All Black selectors have a big decision. Might come off the back of this one, to be fair, to see who goes to better in this one. But I'm expecting Bodie to have another massive performance and, yeah, just get them across the line.
Yeah, and I think Bodie's performance down in Christchurch in the round robin game was close to probably the best performance anyone's had in a single game this season, right? He was amazing.
Huge, yeah.
He's certainly a guy who's got a penchant for the big game. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him turn on absolute blinder. Not that I'm tipping the Blues here, but yeah, it's not going to be a lot of fun betting against Bodie Barrett. You're going to have to watch this one from behind the couch. You guys are obviously both Team Crusaders, though. Obviously the Crusaders lost the game at home. You have to feel like a few things didn't go their way in that game, and they still almost came flying back, and it was just that cover tackle from Rieko Ioane and Dalton Papali at the end that sort of ensured the Blues victory. What are you thinking we can take or not from the round robin game? Whether the Crusaders need to improve from that one? Discipline, I think, is probably comes straight to mind, right? Try not get anyone red carded. Not that.
Even so, I think like the Blue, when they got the red card, I think the Blues scored straight away. But then after that, the Crusaders scored, I think, 2 tries while they were down to 14 players. So they have obviously spent some time with 14 players on the weekend and a number of times this year. So they know they can kind of play to it. They know they can play to a when they are a man down. They've got a game plan. They can just kind of dig in. But yeah, I mean, they'll probably, you mentioned Bodie last time. Yeah, I think like that game, he was just he was near unstoppable. So like, I think a lot of their game plan will have to be around figuring out how to stop him, how to sort of shut him down, and that sort of dual playmaker he's got going with Peter Feta at the moment. I think in that first half when the Blues were rolling, they were just absolutely they were unstoppable, really. You know, that those two were just sort of chopping and changing, and they were just making meters off all the kicks. So maybe not so many kick steeps to the likes of Bodie and Peter Feta. But yeah, they'll kind of, we'll see what sort of game plan they come out with. But they'll want to make amends for that loss, I think, and they'll feel like they probably can. They probably feel like they're coming in with a bit more of a sort of momentum coming into this game.
Bit of rain forecast for Saturday night.
Bit of rain forecast. Yep, said we looked before. Isolated showers, light winds, partly cloudy. So maybe a few hookers might be crossing over for some rolling balls again.
Is Cody Taylor, if he's healthy, you got to think he's going to be a.
You'd imagine so. James, you know anything on that with the Cody Taylor's playing?
No, I haven't heard. I know they're still hopeful, so fingers crossed he can get out there. But yeah, Crusaders haven't conceded a maul try for a very long time, so be wary of Kurt Eklund getting roped into the Kurt Eklund play. I think they'll be looking to do some sort of peels and trick plays around that maul, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the Blues probably not wanting to see the rain come, right? They're going to probably want a bit more of an open. Maybe they can look.
I think it favours the Crusaders more. The worse the weather is.
Can they just hang a tarp over Eden Park? That's their home ground, right? They can do whatever they want with it.
Well, you saw what happened in the second half. As soon as it looked like the rain got a bit heavier in that second half, and that's when the Brumbies really, in that Brumbies Blues game, that's when the Brumbies really took over. So yeah, if there is a bit of rain around, the Crusaders will be looking to control this game and play to their tempo.
Not that I think even if they sort of want to play that territory game and kicking the ball to the Blues can score from anywhere. We saw that in the first half. Both of those tries were like sort of, maybe not the last phase, but they were long range efforts where the moves build up from well inside their own half. So that's something to be wary of as well. There's lots to be wary of on both sides here. We could go on all day listing the threats, and we've already sort of touched on those big names. Obviously, everyone's going to be talking about the Bowden versus Mo'unga battle, a couple of those more experienced key forwards. But are there any sort of maybe under the radar players to keep an eye on, James, potential game breakers we're maybe not paying as much attention to, could have a huge game here?
I'm just looking for, there's some of those matchups in the back line are going to be massive. Like we've got the Taliers versus the Whanganukus, and Good Hughes versus Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Rico. There's going to be so many matchups along that back line. Any of those guys can change the game at the flick of the switch. Will Jordan, mate, he was again so impressive in the weekend. He just makes everything look so easy. His acceleration and his speed is just next level. So there's obviously threats across the board, but the biggest one I've already spoken about, Richie versus Bodie. They're the two controllers of this game. So if it's wet, the way they kick, how much they play is going to be massive. So they'll need to try and win that territory battle. How much do they play with the ball in hand? You know, when you've got the ball in your hand at the moment, it feels like it's not too much. You don't have to play for too long before someone slips over and cops one in the head. So then complete game changer. You got a red card and you're playing against 14 men. So there's a few things for these guys to try and weigh up as they play in the biggest match of the year.
Sure. Anyone you guys have got your eyes on is
looking forward to the battle of fullbacks. I think Peter Feta and Jordan will be great. Also the number 8s. I think Tutu's been playing brilliant.
Yeah.
He's sort of, as the season's gone on, he's really earned that sort of All Blacks jersey, and I'm sure Cullen Grace will feel like he's got a point to prove after missing out on the selection. So, and with his sort of form the last couple of weeks, so I think we could see some. They're both try scorers last week, so I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them cross over the chalk this week as well.
Lester Whanganuku. I'm really looking forward to him. Now that he's been selected for the All Blacks, I think that just sort of releases a wee bit of pressure. I think we'll see him play with a wee bit more sort of freedom. I've been really, really impressed with him throughout the whole season. So I'm really happy for him for his selection, first of all, in the All Blacks. And I look forward to him having a big, big game. But I think for the Blues to win, they're going to have a wee bit of Bowden Barrett magic. In fact, probably more than just a wee bit of Bowden Barrett magic. And as we all know, Bodie can turn it on when he wants to. I just think that Scott Robertson and the team will have looked at ways to nullify his effect on the game. Easier said than done, but I'm sure they'll be coming up with a few defensive patterns to make sure that he doesn't sort of provide that magic for the Blues.
Maybe not kicking down his throat will help.
Yeah, I'd kick away from him. I'd kick out. I'll kick out as well when you're in your own 20. Kick it out on the full. Just go from set piece to set piece. Don't let them run wild.
Wise words for sure. Yeah, one name I've got my own is Akira Ioane. I think he's sort of a real X factor. He always is with the way he plays the game. Right, he's going to want to be getting out into those wide channels and causing a bit of chaos amongst some maybe smaller Crusaders defenders. So whether he's able to do that, or whether the Crusaders manage to force him into doing a bit more of the tough stuff and becoming more of a tight forward than that roaming six that he loves to be, that could go a long way to whether the Blues can get ascendancy. And so you obviously touched on Whanganuku there, but I think it's really interesting. Is this potentially a playoff or a decider for who gets that 11 jersey in a couple of weeks?
Yes.
Yeah, with Caleb Clark's obviously got a little bit more experience in the All Black camp, but he wasn't there last year. I think it's pretty hard to argue if you've been watching any rugby this year, right, James? I know you've got history of Leicester, but I don't think there's been any better left wing in world rugby the way he's been playing at the moment. So if he's got a big performance here, it wouldn't shock me at all to see him get first crack at the left wing for the All Blacks as well.
Yeah, I think he'll be the starting left winger in the first test, and obviously a performance this weekend will help his case there. Probably only can play his way out with a poor performance this weekend, I think. Otherwise, he's probably locked in that left wing.
It will be interesting to see as well, like with both these teams, their strengths are obviously they want to play with ball in hand. They've got all these game breakers, but will we see more of that final style ball control, a few box kicks, putting these contestable balls up that we are likely to see in I can't imagine it. Right, these two teams are just going to play to their strengths and go hammer and nails. All right, should be a lot of fun to. Eddie Jones hasn't been on the phone to either side as a consultant the last few days, I'm sure.
Conditions will dictate to a certain extent, but yeah, they'll try and throw it around a wee bit.
The only way I can see that maybe would be if the Crusaders go up early, which they haven't really seemed to want to do this season too much, and then they are holding on to a lead. Maybe they do try and go to a bit more of an old school game. But I'm certainly expecting plenty of points here, provided what was the score in the first game? I think it was like 28-29 or so. It was a reasonably high scoring game. So hopefully after only 2 tries in each of the 2 tries in the Crusaders game and 4 in the Blues Brumbies game, we might be a bit more of a game for your same game multi punters and whatnot.
All power play punters.
Yes, there's plenty of power plays up there already.
There are.
Bockies have really been working overtime. Got 20 or so, and I think a few Waddle power plays to come shortly. Got the requests in, so see what they.
Looking forward to seeing what odds are coming back in these ones. There's a few interesting options. So I find this a real hard game to punt because obviously not super confident either team's going to win this game. It is going to come down to 1 or 2 big moments. Might be decided by a referee decision. Hopefully not, but. Couldn't confidently tip out either side. So be trying to look around for some value or some other bets that you might find interesting. So that's where the power plays and stuff will come in for me, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of referee decisions, penalty try awarded in the match, $10.
Here you go.
Well, rolling malls get going. That's we have seen.
Red card, multi it with a red card.
It's sort of that elephant in the room, right? Like, there's not much you can say because you don't know it. But I would hate to see a controversial sort of someone stumbles and you graze their cheek on their way to the ground sort of decision. Decide this one. I think we both just want to see both teams have a chance to win the
head clash, yellow card.
Although,
stop it.
We say that the Crusaders. It does seem like maybe I don't know if it's a tackle technique issue, but they are getting a lot of. You think back to the 2 incidents against the Waratahs a few weeks ago, Matera's tackle on Saturday night, like Barrett and the first game between everyone's getting red cards for this sort of stuff these days, but maybe just, I don't know, the way they like to tackle, they want to stop the offload and everything like that does lead to a little bit more of a disciplinary issue, or am I just fishing here? I don't know.
Well, there's definitely precedent for it, that's for sure. If you look at them this season.
Pablo Matera is on the field. Always a chance for a card whenever he's going around these days, it seems like.
Interesting. That. Well, I suppose it was only yellow, wasn't it? So they just handed out the red because of the 2 yellows, didn't they? So.
I mean, I think
the referee had drawn the line earlier on in the match when the yellow carded
Tapia for standing there, for having someone dive into him.
Yeah, so
I want to be very clear about that.
The line was drawn, and then it was a fairly easy yellow card the first time for Matera. Then the second time, obviously the referee knew if he gave another yellow, it was obviously a red, and he was he was talking. He was looking to find a way to not give the yellow card. But that was probably the most clear of the match.
I think, it had to be at least yellow. It would have been a lot more interesting if Pablo wasn't already on the yellow. Then you have to sort of decide, is it a red? Because that yellow was like, I can just give him the yellow, but then he's off anyway, so it has the same effect on the game. But we don't want to be sitting here talking about referees all day. We've got much better stuff.
I hope we're not back here next week talking about referees.
No, don't worry. I've got some tricks in store for next week's podcast, so I'm sure you'll be fired up for that one, Paul. But we will might as well get onto it. Least yellow card chat, more betting chat. That is what the punters are here for. I'll give you the honours once again, James. You've already said it's a tricky game to find anything you're super confident about. What is, if you had to pick one option, what's your best bet for this game?
Yeah, I am waiting for these power plays to come through. I think I've got a couple of specials for us, but no odds yet, so I have to wait and see. But if I'm playing into that, the margin or the result of the game, I'm going Blues 1-12. I just think it's definitely going to be close. I think the Blues will just get across the line, and you got that money back special there just in case. But I do like the Blues 1-12 home advantage. I think they'll just be good enough.
Fair enough. News, please, Richard.
Crusaders head to head, $1.92.
Not under 12.
Well, that'll probably come up later in my betting plan.
It is very tempting, yeah.
I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I'll just go. It is the Crusaders after all, and I know they could run away with it, but I do think it'll be close.
You managed to find an alternate start or something to tip the punters into, Paul?
For my best bet,
Yeah, what's your best bet?
a successful drop goal in the match at $5.
Wow. Yeah. It's very tough to get a read on you, Paul. Yeah. Always keep us on our toes.
Well, we know Wonga could kick him over. We know Bodie can. And I think, did we see Perifetta do one?
Sullivan, I think.
Was it? Oh, Sullivan. Sullivan. Yeah. But so the Blues have taken one.
That Bodie drop goal
Bodie
that
off
hit
the
crossbar
post.
just before half time as well was suddenly very relevant at the end of the game. Imagine if that had what was pretty much just a Hail Mary and come back to be the deciding factor. But yeah, no, it wouldn't shock me. It does shock me that you're tipping at a $5 shot for your best bet, but
I'm final. That's when you really open up the arms.
And what's your value bet? $1.80.
Don't worry about it.
I'm just going with the Crusaders head-to-head $1.92 best bet as well. I think, yeah, I would have them favourites. The experience and everything we've talked about there, I think that does play. Obviously, the home crowd factor will be a thing, but looking back at the regular season game, I do think a lot went wrong for the Crusaders, and they still almost won that game. So, with the luck being a little bit more even, not that, yeah, I mean, both sides can certainly win this game. There's 22 All Blacks between the two teams, right? So any one of them could decide it. I'll happily take the Crusaders as underdogs in a final when I get the chance. Do you want to lead us off with a bit of value since you seem like you're...
Sure. Will Jordan, first, second, or third try scorer, and the Crusaders win at $6.
Love that.
I like that. What's your value bet, Richard?
Power play also. Bowden Barrett or Richie Mwanga, anytime try scorer, and either team wins by 1 to 7, $4.
Very nice. How about you, James? Got a bit of value?
I'll go draw halftime or full time. $8.50. I think it's going to be extremely close, potentially drawing at halftime. If not, you still get your second half to watch and wind it home for some golden point. How good would that be?
Golden point.
There's actually a punter who's got about $1,500 on the match result draw at $21.
Wow.
So
huge. I'll take the little bit. I'll take a little bit less to go for the halftime one too, just in case.
I like that.
Yeah, certainly. If there's a bit of jeer around, the team wants to sort of lose the game in the first half, could be a bit tight, and then open things up. I've going pretty wide with mine. Certainly, just chasing the value here, but Cody Taylor anytime try scorer and Crusaders by 11 to 20 at $12 looks a pretty nice price. Sort of mentioned the Blues giving up a couple of tries off a rolling ball. Cody can score him pretty much from anywhere on the park as well. So if he gets over the wide channels, and the 11 to 20, that's certainly the it's a big number there. But at $12, I think it's worth a little throw up the stumps as we like to do.
If he doesn't play, then you get your money back.
I would have to presume so.
You'd hope so.
Yeah.
Well,
an investigation.
Plenty of investigations going on at the moment. But there is also Super Rugby bonus back for the last time this year running on this game. The same offer as always, place a winning team and margin bet if you back the right side, but by the wrong margin, you'll get money back up to $50, $50 back as a bonus bet. James, you've already said you Blues 1 to 12 with your winning team and margin punt. You guys both taking Crusaders 1 to 12?
Yep.
All right.
I will also go Crusaders 1 to 12. Leaves me that nice 2-point middle for my value bet and my winning team and margin bet. So can't miss there. That's great. And then last of all, we've also got same game claim running once again. 3+ league same game multi on the game, and if it misses by 1 leg, you'll get a refund up to $50 as a bonus bet as well. So I think we'll just go around the room and each chuck a leg in for a pick and go same game multi. We haven't talked about these beforehand, so probably 3 of us will talk about the same try score or something. But I'll let the guests go first. James, what are you be looking to chuck in straight away?
Bowden Barrett, anytime try scorer, 325. We need him to, if the Blues are going to win, they're going to need magic from Bodie. And when he gets open space and that head goes down, there's no stopping him. He'll be scoring.
Yeah, no, I like that one. Richard, what's good?
Sevu Reece, anytime try scorer.
Paul?
Will Jordan, anytime try scorer, $2.10.
We're already into a pretty nice price there. I'm tossing up Cody Taylor.
Try scorer, like that.
Yeah.
4-leg same game, anytime try scorer. It's a wonderful because you're not worried about who's going to win the game. You just want your player to get over and score.
Well, because Cody Taylor and Leicester Fainga'anuku are both looking very attractive options here. I've already got Cody in my value bet, and it's always good to have Leicester on your side for a try scorer. So I'll go Leicester. So I got Bodie.
Race.
Reece, Will Jordan, Leicester. I like that. They're probably same game multi-market's not up just yet, but should get a pretty nice price for that one.
The whole Crusaders back three, they're all
Yeah.
dotting down.
You wouldn't be surprised.
In a tight game.
Chuck one of them down to get 2 or more. They had that. They had a power play last week. It was any 2 of Reece, Jordan, and Fainganuku.
Yeah, they've got that there here this week as well.
Oh, they got it
$2.50
again?
though.
They just-
It's
yeah,
pretty
it's
short.
50.
They
Yeah,
also,
it's quite short.
they
but
also had
I do
a
like scoring tries.
forward to score the first, second, and third try, I think it was. At
Yeah,
some
it
juicy. Yeah, it did, didn't it? It was Cullen Grace.
Cullen Grace and
Cullen
Taupo,
Grace
yeah.
and-
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually about
There you go.
$15.
Yeah, I think it was 17.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, if the weather's
Yes,
not great, it could be
$17 this week. Yeah, so one to look out for. But yeah, plenty of value bets. Make sure you keep an eye on those, and we'll make sure we get some Waddle Lad power plays up shortly as well. I'll go chase the bookies up after this, and we'll get them out on social. I'm sure James, you'll give them a big push on your channels as well. That's
Looking
pretty
forward
much
to seeing
everything.
them.
That's I think everything from me for the Super Rugby Pacific final. Anything the rest of you want to shout out or touch on before we let the punters get back to their days?
I agree with James. I don't want us to be talking about the referee next week. I want us to be talking about a great grand final and the best team winning.
Well, maybe don't bring up the referee next week then.
Well, don't make me. Don't make me.
I can't make you do anything, Paul. We learned that long ago.
I'm talking to the referee.
I'm sure is watching or listening somehow.
Yeah.
Do we
Who
know
did
who the
get the
referee
job? Does anyone know?
Yeah.
Ben O'Keefe, innit?
is? It?
Is it?
That's I think that's fair. I think Ben's clearly the best referee running around in Southern Hemisphere at the moment. But that's just my personal opinion.
Petra's hot take for the week.
That's not a hot take.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's good. It's such a hard job. There's so many things that they have to look out for. And I mean, the rules now, when guys are falling into contact and you're getting shoulders on head, they don't have too many options. I know people think it shouldn't be a red, but that's not the referee's fault. That's sort of the rules' fault. So I feel like the referees get a hard time. So let's support them and have a go at the rules.
No.
I've never made a mistake refereeing a game from my couch at home. I'll give it a tip now.
I've never made a mistake refereeing the game from the 11 jersey in Eastbourne either. Always very, very perceptive there. But a great interview with Ben on Waddle Lad a little while ago as well, talking about all that sort of stuff. So if you need something else to listen to before the final, I'd highly recommend that.
Great plug.
I think, yeah, I'm a professional, James. I know how to get these things done. Cool. On that note, I'll let everyone go. Thanks for joining us once again, James. Some great insight as we lead into a very exciting game of footy. Hope you managed to find a few winners and we get some good power plays up for the punters there. Thanks for joining us once again. You've been a great asset to the podcast this season.
Appreciate it, boys. Thanks for having me on. It's been good fun every week.
Yeah, no, hopefully we managed to get like I said, I'm a professional. We'll get you back some stage over the All Black season and got a pretty exciting series coming up there and everything. So
HIA for you, big boy.
no, All Times Day this weekend. It can't be ruled out. And thank you too. It's good to have the full house back together once again to preview the final. So cheers for joining us, lads. And thanks to all the punters for joining us again. Enjoy the final, and we will be back next week. Won't have any rugby to preview as such, but have a full season and hopefully a pretty exciting final to recap. And we'll find something to talk about. Paul will have some sort of soliloquy lined up, no doubt. So we'll talk to you all again in 7 days' time. Enjoy the final, and hope you find a winner or two. Cheers.